So the second part of this Transformers fan roundtable from Hasbro Pulse was there was a lot of questions asked by all the various fans. Too much, in my opinion, for me to talk about all of them. So what we did is we kind of isolated as many questions as we could. We sorted them by category because they were all over the place, these questions. And we're going to talk about some of these because some of these are really good questions that were asked, and we could kind of get a better idea of what was going on in the minds of Hasbro, and of course, especially know what's going on in the future, because a bulk of these questions, no surprise, were aimed at Transformers Legacy and the future of some of the other brands. So let's get into that. So the first section that we have here is miscellanea questions, Hasbro Pulse related, HasLab, etc. And one of the questions was, what is the lead time? How long does it take from the thought process and the sketches to the shelf? And they said it's about 2 years. So that's about right. That's been par for the course for stuff that I've talked about with Aaron Archer in the past and how long certain products take. Obviously, Transformers is a much more complex brand than, let's say, some stuff that's just straight up action figures or 5 points of articulation from the 90s. But the point being is it's about right from what I've heard in the past. We have the question here, the Hasbro Pulse Galvatron. What's up with the extra Unicron parts not being part of the HasLab Unicron? It says here they wanted to give more accessories combined with a figure that makes it worth it, much like they did with the Sentinel drone back in the day. That's the stance they have. I always felt that the Galvatron was just kind of like a DLC. Like you buy the expensive Unicron, and then there's going to be a little upgrade pack that's barely like 10% that of the original value of the product after the fact. And in all honesty, I feel that probably a lot of this extra stuff that was included, all the little extra figures and the other ships, I think they were probably an afterthought. They probably didn't even know if Unicron was going to be successful. So why put all that time and effort and, R&D and design into all that extra stuff if they didn't know if this would even get off the ground? Then they talk about here Star Saber. They say plans to add more Japanese characters. Is that on the table? They said here, the umbrella is expanding, can't be specific, but we're aware of those characters. So take from that what you will. Who knows who that could be? I mean, we already get some of those characters to begin with. I think it's more maybe just a trademark thing, if anything else. For the Generation Selects, will we get more niche characters like what we're seeing in the Legacy in the multiverse? They said they're going to be dipping into that pool in the future. Just stay tuned. Sure. And then the last of the miscellanea questions here. This was related to Siege and the Bumblebee Buzzworthy line. Why didn't the Cybertronian G1 Buzzworthy Bumblebee show up originally in Siege? And pretty much the designer here, Evan, said, not 100% sure. Asked if we were looking for more original looks and styles for the Buzzworthy line. We were given a yes, and thus that opportunity presented itself. So I think that maybe there never was an intention to do that for Siege, but when they were doing the Buzzworthy line, when they asked pretty much, I guess, whoever was in charge, the main lead designer, hey, could we possibly get some original molds or styles for this line? There was the yes, and then those opportunities created themselves, and they were two different Bumblebee designs. That core class one that pretty much is just bumper, and this Cybertronian G1 Episode 1 G1 Bumblebee. Let's get into Studio Series and movie questions. So first question here was Studio Series 86, the rest of the Dinobots or other deep characters from the roster. They said here, no intention of ending the Studio Series 86 line or Studio Series as a whole. Here's an interesting thing they said here. Thunderwing, Bludgeon, etc. are on that list, would like to do. Yeah, Thunderwing and Bludgeon, I don't know where you get Studio Series on either side of those, whether it be movie or 86 movie. But sure. Okay, if I don't know how they're going to explain that. I think maybe there were some crossed lines with that explanation. There was a mention here, early Studio Series toys are really expensive. in the secondary market. Any chance of those older Voyager or Leader class figures getting re-releases? The answer was anything is on the table. So a possibility. I mean, we see re-releases with our War for Cybertron stuff. You know, they fill in a peg here and there. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of those earlier Studio Series stuff that now have gone up in the secondary market getting a re-release, if the demand is there. If people are willing to buy it, they're willing to print it. That's always how it is. Human characters with the Leader classes beyond Studio Series 86, any of that can happen. They said here, it's on the table. Since they're technically accessories, we need to balance what accessories best fit what figures. Which, again, makes sense. I think that a lot of those Dinobots, they could probably justify them as a Leader class, but they probably feel that there's a little bit of extra budget there, and that's how we ended up with both Daniel and that of Wheelie. Probably we'll see the same thing maybe with Sludge, Swoop, and Snarl, but who knows? We will see in the future. And the last question here is related to Rise of the Beast. How does Rise of the Beast affect the Generations line? They said here they are developed independently, but we are aware of what each other's brands are doing. You won't see something that's being done with the other. That makes sense. But at the same time, I could honestly think of a handful of examples where both movie line stuff and Generations were both doing kind of the same thing. I guess the same trademarks, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Look, with Rise of the Beast, we're going to get a Studio Series line. We're going to get a standalone independent Rise of the Beast, more, I guess, lower price point line, much like we did with the Bumblebee movie. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see crossover of other stuff of those trademarks with other characters within Legacy and the rest of the Beast, so to speak. Let's get into Transformers Legacy questions now. So the first one is, combiners Scramble City style in the new line or otherwise? Make your own, not a specific case here. Specific combiners is the end goal. I don't know what they meant by that. I think they were probably trying to say that it's going to be probably what you think it is, potentially. Do they plan to do box sets of these combiners? Mark, one of the designers, Evan is the one talking here. Mark, one of the designers, would like to do that. No plans right now. Stay tuned. I think that if the budget is there, because considering that the centerpiece is a Commander, and then you're talking 4 deluxes as opposed to the box sets that we got in the past were usually a Voyager and 4 deluxes, it would be an expensive box set. So they'd probably really have to, I don't know, I think it would have to be something that would be a convention exclusive or an online exclusive, not something for retail, because that would be a big expensive box that even would be dwarfing that of a Commander class's MSRP, not a Commander, a Titan class's MSRP of 4 deluxes and a Commander. So would be interesting to see, but I can't see it unless it's done through a specialty kind of way. Combiner Wars tech, will it work with this new Legacy style? They answered here, may work, but not the focus. Menasor will be Menasor first. No compromise for that compatibility. Think of the Constructicons, aka Devastator. So I think that they're going for what they're trying to say is that there's more of an emphasis on just each character has its place. It'll make sense with it, less about compatibility across the others, because even though, like you mentioned, Devastator was part of Combiner Wars, they didn't combine with the other Scramble City-esque members, if you will, of Combiner Wars. So, and this is the discussion that we just had yesterday too, about how there is more an emphasis on that animation model design by Fleur O'Deary, less so on trying to just do something that works on a toyetic standpoint, which is what both the original toy did back in 85, 86, and that of the modern versions from Combiner Wars. Will Legacy be connected to War for Cybertron? They said here it's a multiverse. The aesthetic will be similar, but we're only talking toys. War for Cybertron's set will be, as a standard, will continue. Probably referring to the Netflix series. We'll see how that develops in terms of storyline. Will there be other characters based on what the Legacy poster was shown to us, that little poster art? They responded, breadcrumbs. In other words, yes, it's going to happen. How to keep a unified theme within a multiversal line? They said it takes balance. It's very difficult, working hard to figure that out. Then there was another question about weaponizer types. Will they be continuing? They said they can't be specific. What is next will be nuts. Would like to continue the ability for fans to do custom builds. So they said what will be next is nuts. That's pretty strong word. So I'm really curious what they do have planned afterwards. Is it going to be a complete crazy rollout of mini cons and the compatibilities with that? Or is it something even bigger? Who knows? Who knows? But for them to say what will be next is nuts, I just hope it's cool. I really do, because there was a lot of creative stuff with fossilizers. There was just some incredible stuff coming from the fans. Should we expect more non-G1 characters to be redone like Bulkhead going forward? The goal is to keep a same look across the line. Someone won't get as extreme as Bulkhead, but they just want the shelves to blend. Ever evolving. We'll listen to feedback. So that was something that, again, now that we saw Bulkhead and we saw RC, the announcements of stuff like, let's say, Transformers Prime Soundwave or Transformers Prime Knockout that were listings that we saw online and people getting excited about them, keep in mind there's going to be an aesthetic that they're going with that's going to be that, they say here, a look that they're trying to keep across the line. It's a Generation 1 evergreen aesthetic. That's the look that they're trying to keep across the line. So if we ever did get an animated something, it's probably going to look more G1 with flavors of an animated character. Like, let's say an animated Sentinel Prime done in Legacy. It would probably be a snowplow truck that's blue with those aesthetics, but still will lean more on a G1 kind of shape and silhouette than the more Derek Wyatt kind of rounded Paul Dini design that was animated, if you will. Here's a really good one. Armada's 20th anniversary is next year. What will we see for that in Legacy? We are aware of the anniversary. Team is excited for it. If we are doing a multiverse and do not represent Armada, it would be blasphemy. So that pretty much confirms we're going to see some Armada stuff in Legacy. I mean, look, there's that Optimus Prime Armada mold that's been kicking around for a while now. I would not be surprised if it finds a place somewhere in next year for the 20th anniversary of arguably a very successful Transformer line, and has a very strong following today with the people who grew up with it. Transformers Legacy launch. What went into the overall idea and theme? They said a lot was seeded by John Warden and Lenny early on. Prowl into Barricade lit a match on what would be done with Legacy. Interesting take, they said there. Prowl into Barricade is what lit that match. I guess it's more so because you look at what Barricade started as, and I'm not talking the original Generation 1 Micromaster, I'm talking about like the movie design, and how that movie design and that's unique aesthetic and how that was brought over to the main kind of continuity of Generation 1 and was given that more evergreen Generation 1 aesthetic, and now that's kind of a staple. Like, here's Barricade, here's how we could do that. And I'm pretty sure they probably looked at some of the other brands and within the Transformer brand, the other lines, if you will, and going like, how could we do that also? And that's where Transformers Prime came in, and probably animated, and probably Armada. Who knows? The future will tell. Is Legacy a trilogy or just a single? Is Beast Wars involved in Legacy? They said everything fits. Would be a shame to abandon the Beast now. No clear answer on if it's a trilogy. So could be just a one-off, and then we'll see something else later on. But considering they said here it takes a lead time of 2 years, I'm pretty sure we probably have that answer. Titans, are we going to be getting more of them? I like this answer here because this was a rumor for a while. Not sure where the Titans ending rumor came from, but we have no plans to stop. So it looks like we're going to be getting more Titan classes. Obviously, we got the confirmation through the leaked images of the Metroplex and, of course, the listings and stuff. So they say there's more Titans coming, then there's more Titans coming. Transformers Robots in Disguise 2001, a.k.a. Car Robots. Any plans for that? They responded, anything is possible, anything is on the table. So, see what that. And the last category we have here is crossover brands and non-toy merch. And it's just two little questions here. Box art, we want one. Are we going to get a book? Maybe posters. Especially, I mean, when you're thinking about the great box art that we got out of Kingdom. Discussions are on the table. Box art is now more important internally. Again, probably because now that box art is going to be covering most of the box now, it's probably going to be a big selling point of the product, where a huge bubble back in the day on a blister pack would be the majority of the selling point. So I'm pretty sure box art really is going to be a focus. And I would love a book personally. I think that would be great. I think that would be fantastic. And the last question we have here, the status on Transformer collabs and crossovers. Still on the table. Some are in progress. Some of Evan's dream matchups are, we have Kit, SpongeBob, G.I. Joe, the Jaws boat, Final Fantasy VII's Chocobo, Chester Cheetor with Cheeto dust, amazing, and LeBron James Space Jam. Collabs take a lot of time for the team to get locked in. Interesting, the LeBron James Space Jam, because that was one that was rumored for a while back when we saw like the Space Jam collab leak and stuff. I wonder if he's teasing at something there. Maybe that still will be a reality. A little late, mind you, now that the movie is already done, but interesting. Anyways, those are just some of them that they gave us. There was a few more, but I think that these were the key ones that were worth bringing up and opening a discussion. Kind of gives us a little bit of some ideas of what's going on. Hopefully, maybe we'll get some more information. We could flesh this out a little deeper with the Saturday night live stream for the Slag podcast. So be sure to check that out if you're hearing this voice. But yeah, that's it more or less. Let me know what you think. I hope these questions helped a little bit.